I am Anthony Elmore, President and Founder of the Proud Black Buddhist World Association. Our lecture today is called Bruce Lee, Black Buddhist, Bodhidharma, and Kung Fu. We hold that the greatest nation in the world is America, and it was Dr. Martin Luther King and Black America that is making America live up to her creeds. When I was 11 years old, in 1964, Dr. Martin Luther King and other brave souls helped to get signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964. America became an independent nation on July 4th, 1776, but it took just about 200 years for America to pass civil rights legislation granting all Americans equal protection under the law. When I was 13 years old, in 1966, a television show premiered in America called The Green Hornet. And it was in this television show, there was a Chinese bodyguard who later became known as the great karate or kung fu fighter and teacher, the great Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee inspired me to learn Buddhism and to learn the martial arts or karate kung fu. Now, let me explain to you the differences between Zen Buddhism and Nichiren Buddhism. What makes this lecture so important is because Anthony Elmore is probably one of the few black men in the world who can connect the legendary Bruce Lee, Black Buddhist, Bodhidharma, and Kung Fu with Nichiren Buddhism. There is no man in Japan who has this connection like Anthony Elmore. Let me explain. Now, those of you who do not know me, I am a 5-time world karate kickboxing champion. And I began my kickboxing with the study of Zen Buddhism, and that I was studying a karate called Old Japanese Shotokan Karate, which was a combination of Zen Buddhism and the martial arts. Now, one of the ways that I was introduced to Zen Buddhism, and many of us in America was introduced to Buddhism based on the concept of the finger pointing to the moon. And probably the most iconic teachers who taught this concept was Bruce Lee. Now, we're going to go back into our repository, and I want to show you some film footage of Bruce Lee explaining the Zen concept of the finger pointing to the moon. First of all, let's take a look at Bruce Lee as he explains this Zen concept. Let's look at Bruce Lee.
Kick me. Kick me. What was that? An exhibition? We need emotional content. Try again. I said emotional content, not anger. Now try again. With me. How did it feel to you?
Let me think.
Don't think. Feel. It is like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory. Do you understand? Never take your eyes off your opponent, even when you bow. That's it.
In the Ghost Show, called The 3,000 Realms, Nichiren writes this. He says, those who seek to attain Buddhahood solely through the contemplation of the mind are following a one-sided approach. And how much truer is this of those who practice the Zen style of seated meditation and speak of a separate transmission outside of the sutras. You see, Zen Buddhism that rejected the Buddhist writings or the sutras. Nichiren goes on further. He says, in the Teacher of Life chapter of the Lotus Sutra, the Buddha states, quote, Medicine King, though there may be many persons, those still living in the household and those who have left it, who practice the way of the Bodhisattva, if they are not willing to see, hear, read, recite, copy, and offer alms to the Lotus Sutra, then you should know that such persons are not yet practicing the Bodhisattva way in a fitting manner. But if there are those who will listen to this sutra, then they are capable of practicing the Bodhisattva way in a fitting manner. See, it is Shakyamuni Buddha who teaches us that hearing the sutra is the proper way to practice Buddhism in a fitting manner. This has nothing to do, this is not Nichiren Shonin speaking, this is Shakyamuni Buddha speaking. Now, Nichiren goes on further. There's a Go show called Reprimanding Hachiman. Nichiren challenges the Zen concept of the finger pointing to the moon. Now, this is Nichiren Shonin who challenges what Bruce Lee taught. Nichiren writes, and the followers of the Zen school say, our school represents a, quote, separate transmission outside the sutras, the highest form of teaching, and that has been handed down independently from all the various sutras in the canon. The sutras are no more than a finger pointing to the moon, while Zen is the moon itself. Tentai and those other foolish men occupied themselves with the finger and lost sight of the moon. The Lotus Sutra is the finger, Zen is the moon. Once you have glimpsed the moon, what need you have for the finger? You see, there is a total contradiction between the teaching of Zen Buddhism that rejects the sutras and the teachings of the Lotus Sutra. It is Shakyamuni that teaches us to follow the sutra. Now, in the Go Show reply to Hachiman, Nichiren further writes, quote, though the Hinayana or lesser vehicle teachings differ from those of Mahayana or great vehicle, they are alike in both being the preachings of the Buddha. When the Buddha rejected the Hinayana and replaced it with Mahayana, and when he in turn rejected Mahayana and introduced his followers to the Lotus Sutra, he was rejecting different things. the Hinayana in one case and the Mahayana in the other. But his aim was the same in both cases, namely to lead his followers to the Lotus Sutra. See, it was Shakyamuni Buddha who rejected both Hinayana and Mahayana Buddhism. And Nichiren brought out this fact. Now, I want you to go to another Go Show of Nichiren Shonin. Now, the Go Show are letters that Nichiren wrote to his disciples. It's called the Go Show, or these are Nichiren teachings. Now, in the Go Show, the doctrine of the 3,000 realms, Nichiren writes, quote, "We may wonder whether, without reciting the sutra, it is possible simply through the meditation of the mind ground alone to attain Buddhahood. The fact that the meditation on the 3,000 realms in a single moment of life and the method of meditation known as the threefold contemplation in a single mind are contained within the 5 characters of Myoho Renge Kyo. And these 5 characters, Myoho Renge Kyo, are also contained within the single life of each of us. Thus, Tentai's commentary states, quote, "This Myoho Renge Kyo represents the depths of the secret storehouse of the original state, the enlightenment attained by the thus come one of the 3 existences." See, Nichiren further goes on and says, when we chant Myoho Renge Kyo, the Buddha of original enlightenment present in our lives, present. Again, the Buddha of original enlightenment present in our lives become manifest. Our bodies and minds are comparable to the storehouse of the teachings. And the word Myo is comparable to the seal that permits the opening of the storehouse. This is called Myo, or wonderful, to define the proper relationship between the provisional and the true. This is termed Ho, or the law. The point to the original enlightenment attained by the Buddha in the far distant past. This is compared to Ren, or lotus, to clarify the perfect way of the non-duality of provisional and true. This is compared to Gay, or blossom. The voice carries out the work of the Buddha, and this is called Kyo, or Sutra. You see, it is the voice that carries on the work of the Buddha. That's why Kyo is called Sutra, or teachings. Now, Nichiren goes on further. The commentary also states, quote, "Myo is a term used to praise the law that is beyond ordinary comprehension. Myo is also the law of the 10 worlds, the 10 factors, the law that is both provisional and true." Now, Nichiren puts it very simple in his next statement. Now listen to this very carefully, how Nichiren puts it. He says, and this is from the doctrine of the 3,000 realms. He says, quote, "Chanting the Daimoku, or the title of the Lotus Sutra, is the same as carrying out meditation. Ignorant persons may find this difficult to believe, but the second volume of Great Concentration and Insights by Tentai has a passage regarding recitation and silence, in which the word recitation refers to recitation of the Lotus Sutra, and silence to the practice of meditation and contemplation. And again, in the first volume of the Meaning of the Four Teachings, Tentai states, quote, "Not only are such practices as recitation not a needless waste of effort, they are essential in enabling one to grasp the principle involved. It is the voice that enables us to gain or understand the principle of enlightenment, not meditation." Now, let's go on further. Now, Nichiren further writes, he says, the great teacher Tentai was a reincarnation of Bodhisattva Medicine King. And in his commentaries, he discussed the merits of reciting the sutra and those of meditation. To begin with, in his commentaries, he defined 4 guidelines for interpreting the words and phrases of the Lotus Sutra. Namely, number 1, causes and conditions. Number 2, correlated teachings. Number 3, theoretical and essential teachings. And number 4, observation of the mind. He goes on further. But persons who do not understand the importance of these 4 types of interpretation are likely to apply only one type of interpretation, turning all of their attention to the way in which the passage relates to the theoretical and essential teachings, or turning all their attention to how it relates to observation of the mind. See, Zen Buddhism is a one-sided concept. When you see people just sitting around just meditating, that is a one-sided or a myopic view of Buddhism. Now, let's go further to another Gosho. The Gosho is called The Correct Methods of Contemplation, and it reads, quote, "Now we may ask whether these so-called practices associated with the observation of the mind are based upon the teachings of meditation set forth by the great teacher Tentai in his great concentration and insight, which reveals, quote, the teachings that Tentai Shichi himself practiced in the depths of his being, namely the principles of threefold contemplation in a single mind, in 3,000 realms in a single moment of life, or are they based upon the teachings of Zen contemplation set forth by Bodhidharma? That is being spread around the world today. See, Nichiren talks about the teachings of Bodhidharma that's being spread around the world today. He goes on further. He says, now listen very carefully, if they are based on the teachings of Bodhidharma's Zen meditation, then there are 2 kinds. Number 1, doctrinal Zen and patriarchal Zen. Now, he goes on further. He says, doctrinal Zen is a kind of provisional meditation founded on experience taught by the Buddha when he had not revealed the truth. A type of meditation cast aside when the wonderful meditation based on the Lotus Sutra is set forth, as the Sutra says. And the Sutra says this, quote, honestly discarding expedient means, unquote. Now, Nichiren goes on further. Patriarchal Zen, named after Bodhidharma, the patriot of Zen school, is a kind of meditation that describes itself as a separate transmission outside the sutras, a work of the heavenly devil. Both types of meditation represents meditations based on falsehoods that would never lead one to the attainment of the way, and hence must not be employed. It is Nichiren Shonin who teaches us that we must not practice Zen Buddhism, and he gives us documented reasons from the Buddha himself, Shakyamuni, as to why we should not practice this. Let's bring this quick lecture to a close. Now, in relationship to Bodhidharma, we are clear that his methods of Zen meditation should not be employed. Now, those of you who are black, we explain that the SGI, Nichiren Shoshu, Nichiren Shu, and other sects teach a Buddhism that extricates all black history and culture from Buddhism. When it comes to Zen Buddhism, what the SGI and what Nichiren Shoshu and Nichiren Shu and what the Japanese don't teach you or have not taught you, they did not teach and will not teach that Bodhidharma was a black man. Now listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. The Shaolin School, when you look at the movie or the television series called Kung Fu, or you look at the Shaolin temples, and you look at the Shaolin Buddhism, or you look at Kung Fu, we must understand that it was a black man, Bodhidharma, who introduced Shaolin to the Chinese. He was a black man from southern India. He was black, and he introduced this Buddhism. He introduced Zen Buddhism. So when you watch the movie Kung Fu, or when you practice Zen, or when you look at the Kung Fu movies and you see all this Kung Fu, it was a black man that started Kung Fu. But they're not going to tell you this history. They're not going to relate this to you because they teach a Buddhism that extricate all black history and culture. But when you look at the Buddhist religion from Nagarjuna, which the word Naga were the black people of India, whether it's Nagarjuna who started Mahayana Buddhism, or even when you get down to Nichiren Shonin, who says he was a Chandala. The Chandalas were the black people of India. Or you come to the Shogun of Japan, they were black people. There is a great black Buddhist history, and we at the Proud Black Buddhists are here to teach it. I am Anthony L. Elmore, President and Founder of the Proud Black Buddhist World Association. Thank you very much.
Ancient icons show a simple fact. They all show that the Buddha was black. I believe in facts and Akeda was wrong. Buddha was no Aryan. This song saw the history, but those who rewrite history runs into there's something to understand. It was 1,000 years as the Buddhist dealt his teaching right in Japan. Let me tell you something that makes sense. The Buddhist teachings did not start in the Orient. Those of you make a religious incision, the Buddhist teaches no Asian religion. The Buddhist religion has a lot of mystery. Asians took out all the black Buddhists' history. Let me lay on you the history and the facts. Look at the ancient Buddhists, statues is always black. Let me lay this on you, all the black Buddhist history, and take out all the Buddhist mystery. The land today they call India. In the old days, it was called Eastern Ethiopia. The first people in the land were called Dravidian. The same people today we call Nubian. India's the land where we find the birth of racism. It all started in a religion called Brahmanism. 1,000-year war took place in India called the Mahabharata. The fight was between the Aryans and those of the kingdom of Dravidia. The Aryans won the war against their Dravidian brother. They started what is called the Vedic culture. The culture was a religion called Hinduism. They created the world's first religious racism. They created systems called caste that made black people eternally last. The Vedic religion was called Brahmanism. It was distorted teachings of ancient Buddhism. Let me let you in on some facts. The icons of the ancient Buddha were all black. Let me break down to you the Buddhist mystery. Shakyamuni Buddha was the first Buddha recorded in history. Let us not get our thoughts mixed. The elder Buddha came from Egypt. He was called Hermes Trismegistus. The Buddhist teachings come from other lands. The Buddhism we learn come from Japan. The Buddhism that the Japanese teach comes in mystery. That is because the Japanese extricated the Black Buddhist history. Expand your mind and gain power. Let us go to the ancient Japanese capital called Nara. At the ancient Japanese capital in Japan called Nara, there's a temple called Totoji. This temple is where a World Heritage Site be. We're not to believe what our lying eyes see. When it comes to the facts, do not be alarmed. This world's largest Indo-Buddhist statue is made in bronze. This bronze statue is about 50 feet high. When it comes to the Buddha, the Japanese will not lie. The world's Indo-Buddhist statue is made of bronze and gold. We should disregard the facts that the statue is black. Do not behold. Disregard the facts and believe what you're told. The herald this Buddhist statue does not make sense. When they made it black and navy, it was an accident. They called me Sensei Akeda. I am the SDI president. I'm like a Buddha. I'm never wrong. Disregard the Buddha statue. The Buddha was not black. He was Aryan. In my knowledge to learn about the Black Buddha, I did persist. I went to the Japanese priest and asked him to explain a picture like this. The priest says, forget your lying eyes. No Black Buddha statue exists. I said the black hair on the old Buddha statues don't make sense. The priest says, don't believe your lying eyes. The black hair is just an accident. In the Buddha world, the Black Buddhist mystery, because the age removes all the Black Buddhist history. Educate yourself regarding the Buddhist history, but learning Black Buddhist history. With your lying eyes see, disregard what the facts may be. Tell me what your lying eyes see. Disregard what the facts may be. Tell me what your lying eyes see. Disregard what the facts may be. Tell me what your lying eyes see. Disregard what the facts may be. Tell me what your lying eyes see. Disregard what the facts may be. Tell me what your lying eyes see. Disregard what the facts may be. Tell me what your lying eyes see. Disregard what the facts may be. Tell me what your lying eyes see. Disregard what the facts may be. Tell me what your lying eyes see. Disregard what the facts may be. Tell me what your lying eyes see. Disregard what the facts may be. Tell me what your lying eyes see. Disregard what the facts may be. All ancient icons show a simple fact. They all show that the Buddha was black. I believe in facts and Akeda was wrong. Buddha was no